So ES, this is a ES today. So it came in here on the 4 hour. So I had this all marked up. This was my chart earlier. I had it all marked out. And I was actually already short at this point, as you can see. I already had my position on to go short. I was a little bit early, obviously. And so I was anticipating to see a bounce here. And so let's see if we got that. So you can see we did get that. As you can see, the price had dipped down into this area and it actually bounced. So again, I'd come in here on the 4 hour chart and I was just looking at the bigger structure and I just noticed there's this 4 hour supply zone, if you will. And we can see that the price had actually from this point here, so from this pivot down to here, right? So price made this lower high and then from here it went lower. So we could assume that there is going to be some sort of demand here when the price gets back to this particular area here. So somewhere in the range of these up candles here. And then you can see price sold off rather nicely. And it did actually make a lower low here, as you can see. And then as price had moved up into this area, which is pretty clean, there was actually a little small opportunity to actually sell right here as it reached into this area. But for me, this would have been, I'd actually have to look on the lower time frame to actually determine this, if there was something here, like say during the New York session. But these are 2 4 hour bars, so we had 8 hours to actually find some trades if there's going to be any. So that's of course already passed, but I was watching how the price is moving up into this area, and it kind of moved up. And you can, if you look here, so let's the approach is actually kind of cool because the approach is very important, right? So I'm just going to hide all drawings, and so you can see that it kind of approaches it in a bit of a compressed fashion. So you see, and then it has this little pop up like that, and so you can see that it's really you can see the change in the bars as you notice, right? So it's really wide range and it starts to get a little bit lower, a little bit smaller, and then right here, right? And so we come into this particular area right here, and then we actually have a little sell off right there. So for today. So then I just dropped down to the 5 minute chart, and that's where I had started drawing this. So you can see here I had this. So this was end of yesterday's session, and then price had come up from this area, made this higher high, went into consolidation, comes back and actually takes that demand there. Okay, so that's one little interesting clue that you could use. You could say, okay, once we start getting close to this zone up here, how is it approaching, right? What are we doing? Are we taking demand? Are we taking, the earliest demands? So in this particular instance, you can see where price made a higher high, price came back to it, right? So, and then also too, what is this? This is a consolidation. And so what is the first behavior? So that's kind of one thing that I look at as well too. So we'll drop down to the 5 minute chart. So what do I mean by the first behavior? All right. So it's a small clue. So the first behavior is let me take a path tool here and explain what I mean by that. So here we go. So first behavior is basically, okay, so what does price do? It's been moving an uptrend, then it goes in consolidation. Whenever price goes into consolidation, that I always look for the first move out of this. So this particular pattern, right? So we'll go like this. So let's turn this white. There we go. So you can see that we have a bit of a consolidation here, and then there's that first move out of it, right? And then what does it do? From here, it goes up higher. Okay, so we had dropped into this area that I marked as last demand. So there was a last demand zone. So here, let's put that in there like this, right? So there was a last demand right there. So we didn't really take that little low out, right? It's going to be in here somewhere. And so that's the last demand. I marked it as such, right? But so this pattern right here, you so oftentimes will see this particular pattern. And this is really just the pattern I look for, is that if we see, I'm going to use the pen tool here to illustrate this again. Oh, there it is right there. So anytime you see this pattern like that, right, I always look for which direction does price go, right? Is it when I get a consolidation, right? That right there usually tells me, that's like your first clue. Oh, we want to go lower. But of course, context has to play a big role here. Let me go ahead and use because I'm holding my mic and there it is. There's a redo. All right, so we'll go like that. All right, so this is like the first little clue that price wants to go lower, right? So we have to wait, though. We have to wait to see what price does as it gets up to this 4 hour supply zone. And then you can see that what we start doing is we start moving into it in a series of drives. There's this one drive, there's two drives, and then there's our third drive. right? So this, it's somewhat uniform, if you will. If we actually want to look at how uniform it is, we can go like this. We can say, okay, from this high to that high, how many bars was that? That was 57 bars, 4 hours and 50 minutes, right? So how about the next one? Is it uniform? Let's see. I always like to look for uniformity, right? So that one was 73 bars, right? So about 6 hours, right? So it's not it's not entirely super uniform, like it's almost exact, but it's pretty close. All right. So this idea of three drives, price is approaching a supply zone, and it's putting in a three drive, and it's giving us clues even before we get there, which is here. Consolidation, run up out of the consolidation, right? So is that our first clue that price wants to go lower? Right. So that's one way to look at this. Yeah, this last demand, right? Or excuse me, this demand taken, that was taken. So look what it does. So it makes a higher high from here. So this makes our last demand. And then you can see here, price makes that higher high from here, comes down, takes out this little base here where price essentially made a decision to go higher, right? So it moved into this, so it's taking that out. So that should mean that we could actually go a little bit lower. And then what do we do? So if you notice where I have this little low marked here. You can look very closely right here. You can see as price comes down here, it actually engulfs it, makes a lower low, breaks that little low right there. Okay, and then what does it do? What does it do? It rallies up into the supply zone. And you can see this was roughly just after the open this morning New York session. And so what does it do? What does it do? Now that we've taken out this last demand, what does it do? It goes to the next area, which is here. So I had this area marked, right? And then underneath it, I said, okay, look what we have here, because notice how price kind of stepped into it a little bit here as it rallied up, but it made a higher high from here. So I had this marked. So as you could see right here, and I said, are we going to get a small bounce right here? And that's essentially what happened. We got a small little bounce here. It moved into the area right here, kind of in a three drive fashion. So you see 1, 2, 3. There's little three drives in here. And then what does it do? It hits our little zone. It's roughly hitting the body there. It looks like we just missed it here, and then it had a small bounce. And then what did it do? It rallied back up. So if you know anything about failures and bear traps or bull traps, this is the kind of your classic bull trap, if you will, right? So the buyers that are sitting above here trying to buy, they basically got. So I actually get this from Jason James, where when we see price putting in this lower low like this, right? And again, too, the price is very bullish. So this was not surprising at all. But then what it did is it actually came all the way back up. It hit my stop loss, which was rather frustrating. And then what it did is it came up to this little last area where there was this little last bit of supply, which broke our demand zone. And then as it came up, hit the big supply zone on the 4 hour, came down, and it went right into this area. And look what it did. It put in this little, like, if you will, base drop, right? And that's basically where price it went to. And I allowed some other methodologies to get involved in my mind, thinking that, let's try to keep our stop as tight as possible. And I was thinking that maybe these little highs would have enough liquidity to actually send the price back down, if it was essentially a trap. But you can see it came right back to this little decision point to break the last demand. So this is just a little mental record I'm putting in my mind to remember this next time, that the better place to actually be looking for a short is not here. It's actually back above 50%. So this little new swing here that we put in, if it's indeed bearish for the time being, then the best place to be looking for the sell is to be looking for it up here as high as possible, not down here. Okay. And so now what I'm looking for is looking to see, now that we've taken out this little demand zone, you can see there's a bit of a compression zone. So what's the concept behind compression? I get this from RTM. It's an old supply and demand community. And I like the concept of compression because all it simply is you can see it rallies out of here, makes a higher high, comes back, and it doesn't actually come into this area, as you can see. So it's kind of a fresh little area, and then it goes into compression. So if we were to drop down onto the lower time frames and be looking, say, maybe even on the 1 minute, and even in like the small tick charts, we would see these little demand zones that would essentially send the price up, making higher highs, and then price is pulling back into those, kind of compressing upwards. So these are areas where price can oftentimes move through these with much ease. So if we were to look at maybe this on a volume profile, we might see like maybe an area of low liquidity, right? So there's not much liquidity. So price is going to discover and go to the next area of liquidity, which would obviously be right here. I actually have a friend who's short on this right now, and that's what he's looking for. He's looking to see if price would actually make it down to this area, which is roughly a naked POC on the volume profile. But you can see it in price, and that's really the idea, as mentioned. So yeah, it's starting to have a little bit of a retrace. As you can see here, it's the New York or the afternoon session. So let's see what happens. Let's see if this little area here, because look, from here, it has created so we'll get rid of this here. It's created a little bit of what appears to be a supply zone here, right? So let's see if this little area right here, if it bounces up into this area, let's see if it offers an opportunity to actually short here, right? And so yeah, so this little supply zone, and that's basically it. So anyway, so you can see again, here's that little pattern I was talking about right here. Here's that consolidation. Here's the run out of consolidation, and then this run up to essentially have this little what appears to be a bull trap, and then price made a lower low, right? So let's see. Here's another consolidation. Price runs lower, right? So now what we're doing, let's see if we're going to neutralize, maybe stops, and let's see what happens here. But anyway, this is kind of a lengthy video, but that's kind of how I look at price. And yeah, so yeah, I got stopped out. So I may look to maybe re-enter here. So we'll see for the afternoon session. So that's it for this. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something for this. All right. Have a good one. Thanks for watching. Bye.